Hi, my name's Gina and I am making a video today about forgiveness because I think it's an incredibly misunderstood concept, and this is not a video with 5 steps on how to forgive. Okay, this is all about the real meaning of forgiveness. So first of all, what usually triggers people to look up forgiveness and how to forgive is that they've realized that holding on to resentment and anger and frustration and the need for revenge and all that sort of thing is self-destructive energy. And this is why people start looking into forgiveness and wanting to forgive and let go, which is really good. You need to move on and not have all those negative toxic emotions in you. But the thing that I find quite disturbing is that how people get into forgiveness is they follow this concept of trying to brush over what happened in a way, and it goes into a lot of denial on how the event that needs to be forgiven affected them. So let's say, for example, you as yourself have realized that you need to forgive someone, or you really just want to move on with your life, and they're in your head, and the effect of what they did to you recently or a long time ago is just taking over your life basically, and it's just dominating your emotional state, and it's maybe impacting your relationship with yourself and with others negatively and things like that, draining your creative energy. I mean, anger and resentment are really, really damaging emotions. So well done for acknowledging that you need to move on from that. But the only way to really get to a point of forgiveness is to confront, if you can, this is what my advice is, to confront that person. So you either, depending on the situation, you either actually go and speak to that person, you tell them exactly how you feel and how you've been affected by what they did. Do it in a non-violent way. You may have to get angry. If you are angry with someone, you have every right to tell them that you're angry, especially if they've done something really damaging and wrong and hurtful. You have to give them feedback. I'm sorry. So they need to be aware of how their actions affect other people. Even if you're the only person on the whole planet that responded in that way, they need to know that. So forgiveness for me is, first of all, acknowledge the hurt and the pain and the anger and frustration that you're feeling as a result of somebody else's actions. Okay. Do not for a second think that by you forgiving them, or even presume that forgiveness is about pretending that their actions had no negative impact on you, and that, oh, it's fine, I'm okay, it was a long time ago, or it doesn't bother me that much anymore, or they're old now, so I'm not going to confront them about it. You really do need to acknowledge how it's impacted you, because if you don't, you're not actually going to move on from it. So you have to acknowledge how it's affected you, and then you need to find a release for those negative emotions and those negative feelings of resentment and so on. I just had to plug in my charger there. So and then you need to express to that person how it made you feel and exactly what you think, maybe, and everything else that is affected in your life, and how it's maybe affected whether or not you can trust people, what certain situations it's got you into, if it's triggered self-destructive behavior, all sorts of things. You really need to tell them all the gory details, I'm afraid. So if they are no longer around, so if they have moved away, or if you can't get in touch with them, or if communicating it to them would put you in danger, or if it would trigger more violent behavior, for example, or if they are dead, or because you're the best person to judge the situation. If you know for a fact that actually speaking to them about it will just cause you a whole lot of grief, and further trauma, because not everyone can handle honest feedback, okay, especially people who have inflicted pain in the first place. Find a way of expressing it. So you can write a letter and you can send it to them, or you can write a letter and tear it up and burn it, or you can have a virtual conversation with them and just tell them what you need to say and get it out once and for all. Or yeah, there's ways, and if you can, just get in touch with them and tell them exactly how you feel and how it affected you. Because for the people that are actually open to hearing that feedback, and you'll be surprised, some people will, depending on how much they value your relationship with them, because every situation is different, they might actually be wanting that conversation. They might actually be wanting that authentic connection with you. They might, believe it or not, literally have no idea the impact that it's had on you. They may have no idea at all. And for people that are open to receive that from you, then there's actually a chance for them to heal, and there's a chance for them to not hurt anyone else in the same way. So it's really, really, really important that you acknowledge your true feelings, that you feed back the impact that someone's actions has had towards you, on you. It's really important. So, and then forgiveness can take place. Obviously, everyone knows that people who inflict pain on people are either stressed, or they are dealing with trauma themselves, or they have been through trauma previously. That's, to me, that's more the excuse than the reason. Because if somebody's consciously inflicting pain on someone else, then that previous trauma is just an excuse. It's not a reason, because everyone has a choice. But if you have somebody who's inflicted pain on someone else emotionally or in whatever way, and they're not aware of it, then you need to give them the opportunity to have that feedback, because they may really not want to do it again to someone else. So it's really important always really to speak your truth. You have to feel your truth, and you have to speak your truth, and you have to find a healthy way of processing it. So my advice would be to not pretend that you're okay if you're not. Do not hold back on communicating the impact someone's had on you for fear of hurting them. If you know that it's going to have really negative and dangerous consequences for you, don't do it to the face. But you need to at least write it down, and you need to find some way of communicating it to them, even if it's to their higher self or to a spiritual aspect of themselves, so that you can have that release. You have to have that conversation and get those words out, because remember, at the time of you going through that painful event, while that person was doing something to you that was painful, you either for some reason didn't or couldn't, or it didn't even cross your mind to, because that was your normal, you didn't respond in the moment in a way that could have made it stop, okay? Because, and there's many different reasons for that. You could have lost your job if you'd stood up for yourself. You could have put yourself at risk of more violence. You could have been a child who's physically, being threatened. If you do stand up for yourself, maybe just physically too small, maybe too young to know that what you were going through was actually wrong. It's only now that you're an adult, but there's something in your being that would have wanted to respond at the time, that knew that what you were going through was fucking horrible. So all of those responses in the moment that that came up in you in the moment are still sitting in you emotionally, physically. They're sitting in you as stress, as fear, as subconscious beliefs that you don't need anymore. So you need to find a way of expressing that latent response that you wanted to express in the moment at the time that the trauma was happening. Okay, if that makes sense. You can do it also through things like art therapy, and really getting into that negative emotion and finding a positive way. So that's getting more into how to process negative emotions. But in terms of forgiveness, what forgiveness isn't is a way to hide behind. It's not something to hide behind to avoid feeling the shit behind what happened. It's also not a way to avoid confronting people, because people need to be held accountable for their actions, especially if their actions are bad. And I'm not getting into, oh, what's good and what's bad. There are things that are just fundamentally good, things that are fundamentally bad, right? Like child abuse is bad, violence is bad. There's certain things are black and white. I don't care what kind of background someone's had or traumatic past someone's had. It's not an excuse to consciously inflict pain on someone else. Okay, so forgiveness, do it for yourself, but also do it for the growth of the other person, because there may be an opportunity there to prevent them hurting someone else. It's possible. It depends. It really depends on the how extreme the trauma is that you were put through, that you trying to forgive for, if that makes sense. But so, and you need to maintain boundaries. So when it comes to forgiveness obviously, and I'm hoping everyone knows this, forgiveness is not letting the person carry on, and actually, if someone's done something to you in that way that's made you feel that bad that you come on to watch a video about it, I think you should cut them out of your life, to be quite honest. There may be occasions where that's physically not possible, but as soon as possible, get away from that person. You can forgive them and you can let go of all the toxic feelings, because you don't want them to have power over you. That's the thing. If you don't, forgiveness isn't actually about looking at that person and thinking, oh, it's okay what they did, or oh, shame, poor them, they had a bad life and that's why they did it. I'm not going to get angry. Fuck that. You get angry, you tell them exactly how much it hurt you, and you make sure that they are aware of how it hurt you. It's a massive fly here. And you don't let them do it again, basically.